Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us via Zoom. And for those of you who are joining via Facebook, be sure to share the live and, post it to your page so that you can invite some more people to join in. And we are going to get started in just a few moments, just waiting for a couple more people to join us in here directly through Zoom. But okay, beautiful. Great. So good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Riva Precil. I am the Communications and Engagement Coordinator here at Haiti Cultural Exchange. And for those of you who are new joining us and don't know much about our organization, we are Haiti Cultural Exchange, and we're a nonprofit organization that's established to develop, present, and promote the cultural expressions of the Haitian people. We seek to raise awareness of social issues and foster cultural understanding and appreciation through programs in the arts, education, and public affairs. So specifically for this program, which is HCX Rasin Lakay, this is a program that we developed as an opportunity for artists. We sort of had to, find a solution with the pandemic this past year. So we created a open call opportunity for artists in response to the pandemic that provided a grant for artists of Haitian descent based in New York and Haiti as well, to create and present new work to be shared via our HCX online platforms. So that's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, email blasts, every interweb channel, sort of as a response to what was happening in the world, and so that we could keep the work going, so that we could keep sharing, our artists' work with the community. And it's been going on since April last year, and we're continuing to take on new artists right now. So the artists that we're speaking with today are from our 2020 cohort, and we have new artists who are working on their projects as we speak. I do want to mention that Rejin, who is our executive director, she is joining us through Facebook. She'll be, reading the comments and seeing the questions when we open up the Q&A for the end. So shout out to Rejin, who's on the back end of things today. And also want to give a big thank you and shout out to Alain Balin, who coordinated this talk today before, on the back end also before our call. So Alain, if you're watching, thank you so much for all of your help with this. And we are going to talk first with our first artist today is André Eugene. And André is actually based in Haiti, and he's joining us from Haiti today. So we're gonna let him speak first, so that in case we have any connection issues, because we know that these, internet events are unpredictable. So I'm going to tell you a bit about André as an artist. He was born in Port-au-Prince in 1959, and he's a leading figure in the artist collective known as Artistes Résistance, and a broader movement known as the Sculptors of Grand Rue. So if any of you have had a chance to visit Grand Rue and see André's atelier, it's quite amazing. He's actually in there today in that space. So hopefully he can give us a little tour so we can see it from here. It's really amazing. Eugene fused the fetish effigy with an apocalyptic MTV futuristic vision. Much of his work is figurative, using human skulls for heads and imbued with a bold sense of irony, sexuality, and humor. So there's lots of interesting details that you'll see in his pieces. And in 2016, André Eugene contributed to a large-scale collective sculptural work, which is a permanent exhibit at the International Museum of Slavery in Liverpool. His work has been shown at the Museum of Ethnography, Geneva, at the Parc de la Villette, Paris, and the Fowler Museum, UCLA, Los Angeles, Nottingham, Contemporary, UK, and at the Grand Palais in Paris. His work was included in the Haitian pavilions at the 54th Venice Biennale. André is the co-director of the Ghetto Biennale, which has been held in Port-au-Prince since 2009. And in 2015, André and his partner Leah Gordon were the recipients of the Colección Patricia Phelps de Cisneros Travel Award for Central America and the Caribbean. So André has had a lot of amazing opportunities, and he's obviously his work has traveled. It speaks for itself. So I'm going to let him tell us a bit about this project that he did with Haiti Cultural Exchange. If you all haven't had the opportunity to see it yet, please take a look at the film that he and Leah co-produced. It's on our Haiti Cultural Exchange YouTube page. And it's a short film just talking, it's called Corona Chronique. And map kite li fon ti pale avec nous. I'm going to speak in Creole and try to bounce back and forth, but mainly in Creole. Let me... André, ou capable et tendez moi? Connexion pas trop bon non. Est-ce que vous capable? Pas tant trop bien. M'tendons un peu mieux qu'on y a.
Vous voulez me présenter tête moi?
Oui, je voulais présenter tête tout. Moi saute li bio pour moun yo pour connaître tout travail que vous faites dans passé.
Oui, biographie moi.
M'tare mais au fond parler du travail que vous faites.
Et on met traduit.
Oui, je capable de traduire pour on a parlé de corona chronique là, procédure là, comment ça t'est pendant ça corona Haïti, travail ou t'as fait pour projet ça, comment ça t'est passé.
Ok, d'accord. Premièrement, moi-même, moi, André Eugene, moi, fait Port-au-Prince, Haïti. Moi, grandi dans Port-au-Prince. Moi, j'ai un mouvement, moi, mettre sous pied qui est les artistes résistance. Même quoi, c'est années 2000 pour commencer. Et 2001, nous faisons site web là qui est les artistes résistance. 2006, nous faisons. Là, nous rencontrons Léa Gordon dans l'Angleterre, dans Slave Museum. Après ça, Léa fait website là pour nous créer les artistes résistance. Nous bail non mouvement les artistes résistance. Alors, c'est là que ça nous travaille. On travaille avec Simone, on travaille avec jeunes. Et moi, j'ai un mouvement, moi, fait tout qui est le Ghetto Biennale. Ghetto Biennale, là, c'est plus fort artiste, l'autre bon, c'est artiste académique parce qu'on a moyen pour aller à l'université pour apprendre art là. Nous-mêmes, nous sommes autodidactes en Haïti. Nous n'avons pas de possibilité ça. L'aime faire Ghetto Biennale là, moi, invite artistes académiques, l'autre pays, pour mélanger idées académiques là et autodidactes là pour venir avoir l'autre idée, l'autre philosophie de ni autodidacte là ni académique pour mixer ensemble et chaque monde gon bagay prend là-dedans. Monde qui là autodidacte là, il prend l'académique là, monde l'académique là prend là autodidacte là. Qui vient permettre qu'on y a toute zone là, il vient converti en atelier tout bail passer longtemps zone là té un petit genre drôle. Monde te kon vinn avec bagay zam, vinn longtemps vinn bay monde bay ça. Zone là vinn ti moun k'ap grandi yo, te vinn gen problème yo grandi à ça mais qu'on y a nous retirer zam là mais nous bay l'autre zam qui at là pour yo travail, yo capable vendre bagay yo payer l'école yo payer par exemple longtemps yo continue qu'on a boulé caoutchouc les leaders politiques viennent yo bay sac pi grand ou comme sac pi grand entraîner yo. Il y a le boulé caoutchouc pas faut qu'on tirer là-dedans tout. Mais moi même caoutchouc ça on prend yo bâti moun yo. Moi me prend même caoutchouc me transformer il me fait tourner œuvre d'art Et puis qu'on a les petits moun yo vend yo paye l'école, yo paye maman yo m'bral moto caoutchouc ça oui. Par exemple, ça. Ouais. Ça aussi, yo tourne every day. Ça c'est bon. Ouais. Ça est caoutchouc. Égal, ouais, même caoutchouc, me transformer li, on a me fait le tourner every day, il vient distinguer avec mes. Tout ça. Il vient changer, il vient transformer, faire tourner l'autre bagaille. Alors, c'est là, il dit ça, moi travail qui va permettre moi plus safe qu'on y a, côté mia. Parce que tout le monde gagne un intérêt dans ça m'a faire. Ouais, yo gon intérêt dans le travail m'a faire ou vinn. C'est pas et ou même cap veiller parce que l'aime te fait commencer. Gladé un parti mal Danemark avec au dernier mal Copenhagen avec 5 et puis retourner là chaque visa ou la mais notre visa est un big deal pour mon boy ici mais qu'on a n'importe qui jeune garçon des visa 5 ans ou la mais il y a n'importe gros pays il retourner ou pas sauver on prend une assurance dans tête yo payer l'école yo qui a fini l'école qui fini déjà tout on prend cap fait travail yo alors je pense que ça sont bonne idée pour chaque monde t'as fait dans chaque zone et puis avec ça je pense que là tu as développé plus et puis nous avons plus de monde qui sauve la pays et ça me pense.
Ok, merci un pile André. M'a fonti traduit tout petit. Avant moi fonti et poser question sur et projet et qu'on a chronique là, m'a fonti mieux tout petit. And for those of you who don't speak Creole and who are joining us, André just gave us a bit of a background similar to his bio, but he elaborated a bit on the work that he's been doing with children in the local neighborhoods, sort of providing them with opportunities to travel. He said he went to Copenhagen recently with 5 students and they use recycled items. Taking guns out of their hands and helping them put art into their hands and figuring out other ways to use things that are already in their environment to repurpose and create art and create, positive opportunities for them. He encourages other artists and people to do that as well in different regions, in different neighborhoods. If people could also do this, that would, sort of spark or create a domino effect so that there would be, better opportunities for artists or for the youth in Haiti. He says that he established the Ghetto Biennale, which I referred to earlier in his bio. And he was showing us earlier the pieces that were on the wall. Those were all made from rubber, from tires. So as I was saying before, recycled items. Qui sa encore moins raté, moins oublié, ou parler long, oui, donc m'avait essayé de changer tout ça dire. Oh, sorry. What I want to ask, m'attendre non, tan moins et André, m'pas capable tande ou tan moins. Oui, qui ça vous dit là?
Ou parler de moi recycler caoutchouc, m'tando parler de ça. Et puis gen l'autre bagaille si par exemple bonbonne gaz yo mais là ouais. Okay. Ça c'est ça les bip petit chéri yo. Ouais.
Belle bagaille. So those are made from gas.
Ouais,
gas cans. Wow.
Ça est tortue.
Turtles. Made with, I see, bottle caps, lots of metals. Wow. Est-ce qu'on capable parler nou un petit cas de projet qu'on a chronique lan film que vous avez créé avec Léa?
Yeah, on travaille tout ça, ça son rideau. Ça c'est rideau, ça rideau avec bouchon cola.
Yes, those are made with
Ouais.
bottle
Et
caps.
ça c'est cola pour cola.
Okay, so you put the masks and yeah, for the
C'est cola. Oui, on parle de Léa.
Oui, moi dis sou kap font
Oui, ou dis-moi.
de film nan.
Ça
Film,
parle de ville là ou non?
film Corona Koni côté
Un
fait.
film moi fait avec Léa. Corona. Ouais, c'est Corona. Ouais, bon, Corona nous trouver pour nous en Haïti, nous naturellement nous avons un pile soleil et puis tout gon l'autre bagage moi remarqué qui fait Corona passe tellement pour nous parce que ou connaît l'organe pile virus en dedans qui contre l'autre virus. Alors comment Haïti chargé virus déjà chargé microbe qui en dedans nous connaît Corona passe tellement vinyle saccagé mais il saccagé quelques monde quand même. Mais nous-mêmes, nous avons chance, nous arriver dans ce sens. Mais, et petit film, moi, fait ce qu'on a, moi, j'ai deux, trois sculptures, moi, fait là. Parce que, mais plus que les hommes, des signé, dans la biennale signé. Moi, commencer le travail, là, pour exposer le travail, et puis c'est l'époque ça, qu'on a, il va le faire mes pays, signé. Et puis, il va le faire mes pays pour qu'on a cap à la mode. Et puis, je suis entré dans 15, par exemple, une semaine, mais je suis entré une semaine avant ça en Haïti. Et puis, c'est l'entrée à Haïti, pour résider à Haïti à tout, pour communiquer, il dit bon, il ferme mes pays parce que il va appeler mon apporter corona, il va appeler Alba mon tour, il ferme mes pays. Et puis, les entrées me font équipe de travail sur affaire corona. C'est l'optique ça, petit travail sur corona. Et puis, moi-même, tout, pour me protéger, pour me faire sensibiliser l'autre monde bon côté mieux, pour être capable de protéger tête tout pour corona. Parce qu'on est par mesure barrière, on tout pour haut, barrière globe comme acheter Clorox, mettez l'en bouquet, mettez l'en de l'eau, on est venu, m'bayo, gen masque, mettez bon moi tout. M'bayo l'on mon venu pour mettre masque pour laver mon d'abord puis pour faire des trois sculptures, on fait 6 sculptures sur ça. Qui là pour organiser ça, pour sensibiliser mon yo. Yo ouais que corona son bail c'est pas jouer. Puis yo premier et puis moi me retourne dedans parce que tellement sorti tout. C'est dans l'optique ça l'aime travailler avec Léa filmer et puis moi je travaille puis bah mon travail avec Simon tout pour bah changer tout.
Okay.
C'est dans plus optique ça le travail. Alors what traduire même ça me dit.
Oui, merci en pile pour bel regarder ça. Et about André Eugene's Corona Chronic film, which again is on the YouTube for those of you who want the link. And I just provided it in the chat box also if you want to watch the full length. It's a short film. And André has been working to sort of educate those around him about corona and how to sort of take precautionary measures. He provides hand sanitizer for people to wash their hands and masks for people in the neighborhood. And he was also mentioning that he was on his way to Sydney, Australia for the Biennale that was happening this time last year. But everything obviously had to be canceled. And when he went back to his atelier, he created pieces that were inspired by what was happening. And that's why many of his sculptures now are carrying masks, face masks. So he sort of incorporated that into his work. And also he spoke a bit about you know, different reasons why corona might not be as prevalent in Haiti, maybe regarding the environment, the sun, other bacterias fighting against it, various factors that maybe come into play. But he's been still taking it very seriously and making sure to educate others of, the risk factors that are involved with the virus, and he's just been doing his best to share that information with others. And Leah Gordon is the filmmaker who filmed the project with him. And that was their HCX Rasin Lakay project, was this short film that you'll see on our YouTube. And thank you so much. Merci en pile, André, pour bel et travail ça que vous continuez à partager avec nous, avec et Timoun yo, avec tout le monde dans le monde entier, parce que vous avez fait un gros travail et c'est mon travail petit, donc chapeau, vraiment merci en pile. Et puis, est-ce que vous avez un dernier mot? Est-ce que vous voulez partager avec nous avant ou aller? Parce que je connais.
Non, alors, je souhaité pour tout le monde qui a fait travail, chaque temps a fait, pas garder sur l'autre monde, fait son affaire bien, au fini, même un jour après, fruit travail au faire. C'est ça, comme dernière parole d'adieu.
Merci, belle parole. He says to
et puis merci beaucoup.
Yes, merci en pile, André. Beautiful last words to encourage others to keep at their own craft, not to look to others or copy or replicate others' work, but to do your own, and you will see the fruits of your labor if you just keep at it and stay true to yourself. Donc, merci en pile, André. Moi, apprécié et dernier message ça, comme un artiste, ça a vraiment résonné avec moi. Merci, André. N'a parlé encore bientôt.
Merci.
Okay, bye.
D'accord, have a good time. Thank you so much.
Oui, wonderful. Indirect from Haiti. Amazing. Our next artist who we are going to be speaking with will be Stephen Baboun, and I'm going to tell you a bit about his work before I let him take over and tell us about his HCX Rasin Lakay project. Stephen Baboun is an artist and photographer from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and he is based currently in New York City. He received his bachelor's degree in film and media arts and minored in education studies at American University in Washington, D.C. He's currently a MFA photography student at Parsons School of Design with an anticipation degree completion date in August. That passed already, so got the degree, woot woot. Congratulations, Stephen. And Baboun creates through photography, installation, video, and performance art. His work explores diverse social issues within the Haitian community, such as queerness, race, and social class, politics, religion, namely Vodou and Catholicism, and multicultural identities. Baboun presents to the world the complexities of Haitian society and how Haiti is an incubator for innovation, creativity, and storytelling. His works have traveled to Haiti, New York City, Los Angeles, China, Miami, and South Korea. So for those of you who are not familiar with Stephen's work, you can find it on our website. We have all of our HCX Rasin Lakay projects on our website. You can see the full list because there are some who also aren't on this talk, but you can also find it on our YouTube because Stephen, he's going to tell us more about his HCX Rasin Lakay project specifically, but it was actually an art talk similar to this format. So we had it recorded and it lives on our YouTube page as well as Facebook. So it's a lengthy, maybe it was like an hour talk, I think, something like that. So if you want to, revisit it, he tells us about a lot of his different projects. So Stephen, if you want to take the floor and tell us about, putting that talk together, how it went, maybe some challenges that came up this past year with the pandemic. You know, as an artist, we all were going through challenges. So tell us a bit about the process and the inspiration behind that art talk.
Sure. Thank you, Riva. Thank you, Eugene, and thank you, Alain, for organizing this talk. And thank you and hello to my fellow Rasin Lakay cohort, whom inspire me and whose work I love and admire. So thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna share my screen. Riva, wap fèm konen sou ka wè presentasyon nan tan pri?
Oui, moi well.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so, you know, Haiti Culture Exchange has really always supported me and always has really elevated my work and took interest to my work. And so when I got the Rasin Lakay open call, I was really excited. And so I started to think, and so the artist talk, like Riva mentioned, was reimagining the Haitian identity, the multi-dimensional ways of existing within the Haitian community. And I'll elaborate a little bit on that. I'll make this short and sweet, but which was also moderated by Yvna Despine, who's a fellow friend and an amazing Haitian American curator in Brooklyn. And so for my Rasin Lakay project, I started to think about my work, and I told myself, Stephen, what is the one essence of your work? What does your work do? What is that one thing your work does? And what I realized is that through my work, I'm trying to reimagine who I am as not only a Haitian, not only a Syrian, not only a Haitian Syrian, but a queer Haitian, a queer Syrian, of everything. You know, it's to reimagine who I actually am. And when I say reimagine means there is something that was imagined before that did not support you. So you're taking structures that have not supported you or have persecuted you in some way, and you're reimagining an alternative way of existing in that space. So finally, you know, I'm at a space where I can finally imagine and reimagine who I am as a Haitian, and who I am as a person. And so I say reimagine because growing up in Haiti, I was alienated in two ways, culturally and sexually, and also my gender identity. You know, growing up as a queer Haitian Syrian, I was never Haitian enough, I was never Syrian enough, and I was queer on top of it. And both of these cultures have a big history of queer phobia. So at a young age, I was like, okay, oh my God, where do I belong? Who am I? Like, so I had a big identity crisis, I guess you can say. Not crisis, it's not really a crisis, but identity search evolution at a young age. And so through my work, I am finally reimagining who I am as a Haitian and who my community is as a Haitian. And I promise I'm done with the spiel, almost done with the spiel, but not even and also reimagination in another sense. Maybe you grew up in a Haitian household or community that didn't accept one aspect of who you are. Maybe you were queer, maybe you were practicing voodoo and that wasn't accepted in your circle. Maybe you're a Haitian Muslim and that's something that was not accepted in your circle. So even at a micro level, at a family level, how can you imagine yourself to be everything you are and also keeping your Haitian identity so poignant in who you are? And also reimagine who we are as a people, because there's a long history, photographic history of Europeans and Americans going to places like Africa or Asia or the Caribbean and documenting these people and bringing these photos back to America or Europe and making a spectacle and a zoo out of it, you know, before back then. You know, this is how people in Nigeria live. Like, look at how different they are from us. Look at their skin color. Look at how they dress, or going to Haiti and photographing. So this neo-colonialist way of photographing, of making a spectacle out of the other, trickled down still to how we communicate photographically today. You know, there's residue of colonialism in photography today. So how, as a Haitian artist, how do I counter that, right? How do I reimagine who we are as people, reclaiming our narrative, reclaiming our imagery, and not letting other people tell our stories for us? And how do we tell our own stories ourselves? And that's what I mean by reimagining. So like Riva said, I'm just gonna go through the slides because I don't have a lot of time, but I'm gonna go through the slides and talk a little bit about each body of work briefly. And you, at the end, I'll share my Instagram and website and you can explore that on your own. So my practice is based off of and is created in collaboration with 3 main marginalized and unrepresented communities in my homeland of Haiti. And these communities I'm either a part of, inspired by, working with, and have friends or family that are within this community. The first community is the Haitian queer community and the Haitian queer experience. The second is the multicultural community, mainly the Haitian Syrian narrative. And lastly, I'm exploring and working with and based off of religious communities that are not Catholicism, such as Voodoo and Islam, because Catholicism is the predominant religion in Haiti. And also this idea of countering the Western gaze and imagining who we are as Haitians. So in my work, I ask this question: what does it mean to be Haitian? What does a Haitian look like? What is the Haitian identity in our contemporary world? How have you seen the media represent Haiti? And I also want to say that this idea of reclaiming back our identity, like if you look at how Western media, how the Western news has sensationalized Haiti and its politics and social life to the point where they've painted that we are just incapable of governing ourselves, and we're always needing help. You know, we have this rhetoric around Haiti: aid, international aid, always. And that's a false narrative, because we don't need anyone else. We got this in the bag. And even Hollywood taking aspects of our culture like voodoo and twisting it or villainizing it, or you name it, right? And so painting a false narrative. So a lot of these marginalized communities or unrepresented communities I work with, we all share this desire to be wanted, valued, and protected within our homelands. And that's what binds us. Out of many things, that's what binds us. So in 2015, I was 19 when I did my first series, the Chamlois. These amazing ladies have a laco and a chamlois in Pétionville in the Musso area, if you're familiar with Port-au-Prince, and they changed my life. This was the first time that a community in my country validated my queer identity. And so this changed my life. This encounter really fired me up. It was really great. And so yeah, that was my first kind of series. And then the next one was Islam. I wanted, because of my Syrian heritage, I have Muslim cousins and Muslim friends, and I was like, there must be a Muslim community in Haiti, and of course there is. And Islam has been in our history, been our politics. There are Muslim figures throughout our history, throughout our politics. And again, it's a community that's silenced. So in 2015, I went to the At-Tawhid Mosque in downtown Port-au-Prince, and I met the Imam and I met the Muslim community. And again, we're talking about this want to be valued and protected. And I didn't want to give a voice. I never want to give a voice, because everyone has a voice. You don't need to give anybody a voice. But here it's a kind of, hey, this is archival. This is proof of existence of a Muslim community that is contributing to our culture and our society and our politics daily. And that's special, and that's wonderful. And that's important to note and to celebrate. I have a film called The Last Haiti, and that's again to counter the Western gaze of Western photographers and artists throughout history and today going to our country and telling our stories for us, and not really knowing the community, you know, taking the money shot, and all of a sudden you have an orphan or a Haitian worker, social worker, professor, whatever it may be, on a USAID billboard in Times Square, and no one asked for that, and they didn't ask for that. And so how do we counter the Western gaze and show people our gaze, and breaking this kind of skewed idea you have of who we are as people? Again, reimagining who we are, you know, as friends, as lovers, as cousins, as teachers, like finally photographing ourselves how we want to be portrayed. And then almost done, y'all. This is Rentrée, which is a video performance I did in 2018. And Rentrée is, I go back to places of trauma in my homeland, in Port-au-Prince and around Haiti, places where I could never express my queerness. Like I go to my grandma's house, I perform at soccer fields where they said, Masisi ou pa ka jouer football, like fag, you can't play soccer. Or other places of trauma where my culture and sexual identity has been persecuted. And so throughout the film, I'm yelling, moi c'est haïtien, which translates to I am Haitian in Haitian Creole. To take back ownership of, yes, I can be all these things, but I can also be Haitian as well. My queerness doesn't take away from anything, or the way I think doesn't take away from anything. It's kind of reclaiming the rejected. And this dress was made by André, who's an amazing, amazing Haitian designer, custom made for the piece. And I felt so fine. I felt so good in this dress, y'all. It was wonderful. I think I'm gonna skip this, but Arc-en-Ciel is another performance piece where I play around with the idea of Catholicism and queerness, and within the Haitian church framework. But I don't want to take up too much space. Finally, Melky, have you seen Port-au-Prince? This is where I dive into my multiculturalism, being Haitian in Syria. I wanted to know, you know, my mom's grandparents immigrated from from Syria to a poor village called Melky. They fled economic and political oppression, and they landed in the Caribbean. And I always was really intrigued by that. And so how did this immigration, how did my Haitian culture influenced my Syrian culture? How did my Syrian culture influence my Haitian culture? And how within our household, we created this hybrid identity of being Haitian Syrian. You know, we can eat banan pezin, pickles, and griot, and then have a side of kibi, you know, like it's an interesting kind of thing happening. And throughout Haiti, there is a huge multicultural community, you know, from all walks of life and all cultures. Okay, and lastly, some new work. When I'm not doing these sociological researches, I'm working within fashion and music. I was very blessed and honored to work with Michael Brun, who's a Haitian DJ musician. And I had a creative director role in his new EP called Melanin. And you know, Melanin fuses African sounds and Haitian sounds. So it was really interesting to be immersed in Michael's world and kind of figure out what the visual, how can we represent melanin visually to the world. Again, working with Haitian artists like Naika, who's an amazing artist, an amazing pop singer. How can I and how can we collaborate together to define and redefine how we want to be photographs as cultural makers and innovators? This is my friend Bachelor, who is an amazing designer. Bachelor Jean-Pierre, who's an amazing designer, amazing musician. And the picture on the left was on the set of his music video for his song Blessed. And the right is the music video, and the left is a photo shoot for his brand, and just kind of documenting my community and what we share together. Again, doing a kind of ethnological, sociological work. And this is Nick and Shadi. Shadi is my cousin, and Nick is my best friend. And so how can we kind of show different representations of who we are and a different thinking? And I'm done, y'all. This is it. And yeah, you can find my work, Merci en Pile. You can find my work, Instagram, and this is my website. So thank you, everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Stephen, for that breakdown of the many amazing things that you're sharing with us and the world. And, you know, this is a true testament to utilizing this space, like the fact that you just did a full slide presentation with photos and videos is like, you know, it's where we're at right now in the world. And we have to sort of shift the way that we're sharing our work and learn about these new mediums and finding different ways to share things via Zoom, via social media. So I shared the link for your previous talk in the chat here, and it's on our website, as I said before. And thank you so much for the work that you do. There were a few comments, I believe, on the Facebook. Someone said that they were happy to know about the Muslim community in Haiti. Many people don't know about that. But we'll open the floor for questions and comments after, because I'm sure there's plenty of people who want to talk to you about, some more, sort of break down some of the things that you touched on, because there are a lot of different things that can be unpacked within what you just said. But the next artist that we are going to be speaking with is Sabine Blaizin, and I'm going to tell you a bit about her work. Let me find this. Yes. So Sabine's work focuses on the exposure and pleasures of African diasporic music. Brooklyn Mecca, Kubancha, and Oya Sound are a few of her creative projects. Over the years, DJ Sabine's mainstay and cultivation has been the monthly event Brooklyn Mecca, which has been coined the home of grassroots dance culture. Sabine worked for Ocha Records label as a brand marketing director slash producer and Bembe NYC party resident DJ. She was also the resident DJ for Subrosa's signature monthly party Kumbancha, featuring African-inspired rhythms of house, soul, Latin music, and more. And in 2018, Sabine was a resident DJ for Fania Records, Fania Collective. Today, she curates a party at Le Bain, NYC, called Récolté, a night of Haitian roots and house. And she's also a resident DJ for House of Yes, NYC, and Onda Mondial, Mexico. So for Sabine's Rasin Lakay project, she also did a talk. It was Haiti x Cuba, and I'm gonna let her tell us a little bit about it. But if you could, Sabine, share with us maybe the inspiration behind that project, and you know, tell me a little bit about your creative process and how it was navigating, you know, the pandemic and quarantine life as a DJ, because that space is so specific to, you know, being together in person in a space. So just tell us a bit about how have you been this past year?
Yes, yes. Greetings, everyone. Honor, respect. Thank you, Riva. Thank you, Haiti Cultural Exchange, for holding the space for Haitian creators for years. But through Haiti Cultural Exchange, I met so many amazing artists and ended up collaborating and being part of various projects and fellowships. So thank you so much. So my project for Rasin, it was called Cuba Nascan Haiti Project, Cuba Haiti Project. I've been to Cuba several times and definitely been influenced and saw the similarities between the Cuban culture, Haitian culture, right? Especially just more so having affinity with Cuba as a culture, but then also finding that there's a lot of Haitians who are descendants or live in Cuba right now, especially the music, from rumba to salsa, and of course the spirituality, Yoruba, Ifa, Lukumi, Santeria, Voodoo. So just the stories between Cuba and Haiti and our rich history, but the potomitan, or the central piece of it, is the strong retention of traditional African practices. So I went to Cuba for the first time as a personal journey in 1998 through the Center of Cuban Studies. It was this project to volunteer, to farm and do these cultural exchanges to show solidarity between Americans and Cubans. And that changed my life. Since then, I evolved as an artist. I evolved spiritually, and I'm a voodooism, mambo supreme, but also Ifa practitioner. So those connections between my own personal spiritual journey and Cuban culture sparked this project. So fast forward, I went to Cuba in 2018. And I've always wanted to do something, either musically, a concept album, or just highlight in some way the connections between Cuba and Haiti. So, in just speaking with other Haitian and Cuban creatives, there's always this appreciation for each other's culture, but we couldn't really pinpoint outside of, like, you know, the history of it, just what does that mean right now, and how we could highlight that and how it's been part of our music, our style, and just to put that in the forefront. So I interviewed 6 artists, both Cuban and Haitian, and it was just an interview. We talked about their personal connection to both Haiti and Cuba. A lot of them are musicians, also photographers. It was just a really enlightening conversation. And through those conversations, I realized, you know, it was great that you mentioned, Stephen, the idea of reimagining, because at that time I was really studying and really looking deep into Afrofuturism and just reimagining who we are, creating spaces for ourselves. So in that particular project, it actually started a series called HCX Lakay, Home is Home. And it's had many different iterations. So the Cuba Haiti project is the latest iteration. But just overall, HCX Lakay seeks to be just a multimedia hub for emerging, cutting edge Haitian diasporic innovators. And it could be through multiple disciplines, right? Whether it's through, a website or a documentary, conferences, workshops, dance class, drum class, just some place that we could share and showcase our connections. And ultimately, I want to create new scholarship for the youth, and also documenting our experiences. So with the Cuba Haiti project, there was 2 parts. Part 1 was just interviewing with another Haitian videographer, the 6 artists that I mentioned. And then because of the pandemic and other things that's happened in our lives, we weren't able to revisit or make it into a longer documentary that we initially wanted to do. And also a concept album of both Cuban and Haitian artists. So in terms of like the pandemic, I'm like, okay, I saw this opportunity, but I want to revisit. And I was also, missing Haiti. I was also missing Cuba. So I was trying to see how I could make it into a virtual event. So with that, I just made a virtual unconference. So it was a 1-day event via Zoom. We also did via Facebook Live, and I showed the short video interviews of each of the artists. So that's part 1. And then we also did a panel discussion for about 30 minutes or so. And the extended idea was to also have a Haitian and Cuban dance and drum class, because I wanted to also illustrate like different sides of us, right? Like we could get really theoretical and very academic, but I wanted to be like a visceral effect and for people to really embody the Cuban rhythms, the Haitian rhythms, so they could feel for themselves the similarities, right? And how at the center, is Africa. And then of course we got to have a party. So we DJ'd and had some music towards the end. So it was a great way of shifting and pivoting, right? From having an in-person event and just bringing it to this virtual space. It also shows, because of this new normal, that we innately could adapt, reinvent, and create our own futures, right? So that was a good inspiration for me, and looking at ways I could extend this project. And I'm even open to collaborating. Another idea that came out of this was for us to actually go to Cuba and create some studio projects with artists out there as well. So it's an ongoing series, but definitely using this opportunity with Haiti Cultural Exchange just allowed me to like bring this vision into fruition. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sabine. I truly enjoyed that that 2-part I guess you wouldn't say it was a conference, but your presentation, it was so cool to hear the different artists talk about their work and their connections with both Cuba and Haiti. So merci. I wanted to share a comment that Nubi Nene said in the chat here. She says, hashtag how DJ Sabine saved my life with her music. So you're out here saving lives.
Shout out to Nubi and Nene. And just to give you a sense, there's also, the opportunity for you to see the interviews on YouTube through Haiti Cultural Exchange, but I asked questions and its themes around how has Cuban or Haitian roots influenced your current work? Historically, what is your understanding of Cuban-Haitian relations, or what would you like to learn more of? Why do you think it's important to explore Cuban-Haitian culture and identity? Themes, patterns of travel, emigration of Haitian people in Cuba, anti-Haitianness, Haitian transnationalism, and how historical and modern creative arts tell the story of the Haitian-Cuban connection and form new identities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabine, for telling us more about your project and for continuing to share your works with us. I'm gonna, revisit this when we have a conversation and questions at the end. But to keep things moving along for time's sake, I'm gonna introduce Darnelle Champagne and Wynnie Lamour, who are part of Jardin Timoun, and they did a collaborative project together. So they're both educators and they're based in Brooklyn, New York, and they share the love of creative storytelling and connecting children and their families to Haitian culture through their heritage language of Creole Haïtien. As co-founders of the Haitian Creole Language Immersion Program for children known as Jardin Timoun, Darnelle and Wynnie have created a space where families can have concrete hands-on experience in song, movement, art, and other activities. Their click-clack storytelling, coupled with vivid, colorful imagery, bring original stories to life, while visibly and physically engaging their audience. Darnelle and Wynnie have hosted several storytelling events, including ones at the Wyckoff House Museum in Brooklyn, New York, and several online as well in this space. I personally have collaborated with the Jardin Timoun as well, providing storytelling and dance classes via Zoom. And, I'm gonna let you tell us about that process and how it's been, also about the series that you did in collaboration with Haiti Cultural Exchange for your Rasin Lakay project. But thank you both for the amazing work that you continue to provide to us all, to the children, and adults alike, because we're all learning from each other. I heard you mention earlier to Stephen that a lot of the comedy that he shares online has helped you to, practice and learn new Creole terms as well. Same for me, because, language is ever changing, ever evolving. There's like new slang, new expressions. So it's great that we can all continue to learn from each other in that way through these interweb platforms. But I'm gonna let you both speak on your work.
Thank you so much, Riva, for the introduction. Thank you, Haiti Cultural Exchange, for this opportunity to be a part of the Rasin Lakay project. And also thank you to our cohorts that are here with us sharing their wonderful projects. We love everything that you all are doing. And thank you so much. And so as Riva mentioned, as a Haitian Creole language immersion program, we share our culture and our language with families. And prior to the pandemic, we had an in-person space where we held classes and were very specific to engaging our children in sensory activities, sensory play, to help them engage in the language in a way that was very concrete, which would help them retain information and have lifelong memories that would also be very cultural to them. And so since the pandemic happened, it was this grand shift of life, this whole new normal, like not even a new chapter, an entire new book just occurred. And in my opinion, I feel that although we all had a difficult time navigating and shifting into our new normal, I feel that parents, especially parents of young children in particular, had a difficult time as they were navigating their emotions and what they were going through, as well as doing that for their children. And we know children in the need of having their home and their parents with them in being and finding comfort in daily schedules or daily routines, having their whole lives shift, you know, especially for those who are in school and suddenly not being able to see loved ones, friends, teachers, and looking for words to explain their feelings, you know, have been particularly difficult. And so for us, I know as educators, for us, it was difficult navigating as well, because we, in addition to our own children, we also have children that we engage with through our space as educators. And also as educators, we are creators. Our curriculum, what we do is in the space of creating. And so once this pandemic happened, we had to find ways to shift ourselves, not only just through our personal lives, but also through what we do in what we create through our work. And so part of this new creation was creating for this project through Rasin Lakay. And Wynnie and I, we took what we already did in person and found ways to bring it to the virtual world. And so making sure that parts of what we're doing was still concrete in a way that in this fashion, it was very visual. So making sure that we use colorful imagery, making sure that we used ways for children to still be able to move, to get up and to dance, to listen to music through the sessions was very important. And so Wynnie and I, we put together 4 sessions. And in each session, we included storytelling. We also included singing, and we included dancing. One special aspect of the sessions we incorporated was with a puppet that we called Totobuki. So with Totobuki, he only speaks Haitian Creole, and children in interacting with Totobuki online through screens, they had a chance to laugh and to find it a joyful moment in interacting with a puppet. And we were careful to take into consideration emotions. We know that parents, families, children, everyone were going through a range of emotions during this time. We are based in New York City, which at one point was the epicenter of the pandemic. And so many people for days or even weeks at a time were in their home and finding ways to engage and interact with people, finding ways to still be in community with others. And we felt that doing this project was one way, not only for our families that we were engaging with semester after semester, but also being able to reach out to other families that we haven't had a chance to reach out to, families who are not in the same town as ours, our families that are out of state, even families that are in Haiti or in Canada. And so through taking into consideration emotions, we incorporate songs that dealt with emotions, asking children to consider how would they manage their emotions when they are sad or when they are angry. Do we do things like deep breaths? Do we do things like counting to take into consideration our physiological responses to how we're feeling? You know, paying attention to those things and finding ways to manage our emotions through paying attention to what we're experiencing in the moment. And through these sessions, we putting together the images for our stories was something that we took careful consideration in. And so we used mixed media, we used props. And so some of the stories were accompanied by still images that we used props to put together. And for example, cardboard that we used in to put together o pied palmis, par exemple, au pied cocoyer, and some other materials that we use for the leaves. We used felt and other art pieces to put together people and their clothing and background, you know, the sun and homes, gingerbread house, for example. And I know when he speaks, she'll share some images of some things that we've images that accompanied some of our stories. We also used iMovie, like we used moving images to accompany some of our stories. And so we felt that this was very needed within the community, being able to share, not only for people, but for ourselves as well. We felt the connection through this project, and we were very glad that we had the opportunity to participate in it. And I'll let Wynnie say a few words now.
Thank you, Darnelle. Thank you so much. Bon, on va commencer ma profite tout pour honnête and respect. Thank you again to Haiti Cultural Exchange for always being ever present, y'all. For everyone who is watching on the Facebook Live, Haiti Cultural Exchange has been in the game. If you are brand new to this space, please run and gather coins, gather time, gather energy, and support this organization because they stay showing up for us. And the Rasin Lakay Fellowship came around at such an amazing time because we were all trying to figure out like what quarantine, what pandemic, and as folks who are deeply rooted in community, we were, like everyone else, desperately trying to figure out how to pivot. And pivoting as a creative, pivoting as an artist, you know, it's in our energy, but it's not easy. So, you know, thank you so much to Haiti Culture Exchange for providing the support for us to be able to do that. So as Darnelle mentioned earlier, part of what we did with the Rasin Lakay project was creating content to accompany some of the work that we did in person with our students, with our Jardin Timoun families. Darnelle and I both write stories. We're both writers, and we write en Creole for our little ones. And in person, we always had like props and things, and the kids could see and they sing along. So how do you pivot that for an online space, for an all remote space? You know, like a good Haitian woman, I had to learn to do different things and new things on the fly. And so I got really comfortable with iMovie and Canva, and I used Canva and iMovie to create actual like moving images to accompany our stories. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, for those of you who are visual artists, because my artistry is not rooted in visual stuff. For y'all who are visual artists, y'all have a lot, a lot of talent, for real. And for my musicians out there, you know, same thing. I had to figure out like what music to accompany the images and the story, so that our families and our kids could actually be engaged. And being engaged during a pandemic, it's necessary, but again, I have to reiterate, it's really difficult because sitting in front of a computer, sitting in front of a screen, our sessions with the kids are only 30 minutes long on Saturday mornings. You know, c'est pas un bagay qui dure longtemps. Qui vle di nan 30 minutes sa yo, ki sa nou ka fe avèk ti moun yo pou yo ka rete engagé. And I can show y'all just really quickly a clip from some of our videos, one of the videos that we shared during the fellowship, the project. Women Wynnie, y'all, this was hard. This little like transition and the moving and but I'm so
Voilà,
so
c'était
glad.
une fois. Te gen yon ti abeille qui est abeille Antoine. Abeille Antoine.
I'm gonna just pause right here. I'm gonna tell. This took me a while to figure out, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. This is that little bee going up and down the screen. This is very challenging, but I'm gonna pause here. All of that just to stress that I say this time and time again. Artists, this means that artists are literally the soul of our community. Like, and they are the ones who put up the mirror to our faces and say, look, these are the things you have to confront. And this is what you have to come face to face with. And during the pandemic, we had to come face to face with a lot of things. Like, who are you in quarantine with? Do you actually enjoy being with yourself? What do you do on your own to take care of yourself, such that you are not feeling weighed down by the nonsense that's going on around you in the world? So when I and Darnelle had this opportunity to create, and again, I think anyone who's creating, as Darnelle said beautifully early, anyone who's creating is an artist. And when you are creating, when you are moving in that space of creation, you're pressing, as Stephen est speaking avant, you're pressing to reimagine. And I think as we are asking ourselves these kinds of questions, and we are on the receiving end of the work that artists are creating, it's an excellent opportunity for us to just move better and be better and think better and imagine better and visualize better, all these levels of stuff. And this is what we bring to our families at Jad and Timon, an opportunity to reconnect and reimagine. And I also wanted to say really quickly something that André Eugene said earlier about ZAM. I always talk to people, I always tell people that with Creole, and I feel this with our little ones too, and I don't mean this in like a violent way, but I am arming you. Like I'm actually providing you with tools so that when you go out into the world, you know actually how to confront certain things. And I think that Creole is already imbued with the knowledge that we need to confront certain things. So at Jad and Timon, c'est pas juste comme si n'a appren Timon yo parler Creole. We're also connecting them with Haitian culture and Haitian history, y'all. Like I know, I know we can never forget what Haiti did back in 1804. This is the energy that runs through us, and I can't stress that enough. So, you know, moi-même ka pale pour tout programme là, m'a fait un petit campé là, même te vle di merci à tout le monde qui là, tout artiste qui là yo. Nous inspirons en pile. C'est moi-même qui suivre nous, vraiment vrai. C'est moi-même qui là, m'chita dans pied nous, m'a pas apprendre et puis m'apprécier tout ça nous fait. Merci en pile.
Thank you so much, Darnelle and Wynnie, for that lovely presentation. Wynnie, I remember seeing that illustration and my eyes were like, what? She put this together? How? I was so impressed with all of the things that you two put together, the props, you know, how the prop was like moving. It was just, it was really impressive with sweat and tears when he says. En pile frustration, I can imagine. As the Rasin Lakay sort of coordinator, you know, I helped you all along this project in terms of like how to share it, what platforms to use, how we're going to roll it out. I know I've learned a lot from you all as well in terms of, you know, learning these different programs and engaging our community with this content. So yeah, hats off to all of you who are continuously, you know, reimagining and figuring out how we can get these things across. We have one last artist that we're going to speak with, but I'd first like to take a moment to acknowledge the other Rasin Lakay artists from 2020 who are, all of their works are on our website. So you can go, and if you just click into their name, you'll see the projects and the description, and you can sort of interact with that body of work on there. But Fritz Bernardin was one of our artists, as well as Daniel Beaubrun. We had Okai Fleurimont, Glenda Lezo, Richard Louisin, Coralie Noisette, Joanne Petitfrère, Jeff Pierre, Pierre-Richard Raphael, who is also known as Kirila, and Yuri Vixama. So the artists, again, are based in either Haiti or they're of Haitian descent, and they're based here in New York. And of those artists, you know, of various range of artists, from musicians to visual artists to drummer to, you know, it's been very interesting to see all of the work that you've all shared with us. And also I wanted to mention that this is our first ever virtual Unparlé, which is strange, right? But here we are navigating this space, and I want to, you know, commend Rejin for pushing for us to put this together, because we wanted to have one earlier last year, and we couldn't get our brains around, you know, how exactly to do that. And now that we've, you know, been navigating this space for a year now, we were finally ready to have this talk with you all, but so far yet so close. Our next artist, her name is Rejin Leys, and she's a mixed media artist and paper maker. She's based here in New York, whose work has been exhibited at such venues as Centro Cultural de España, Santo Domingo, and Kentler International Drawing Space in New York, Queens Museum also in New York, and Les Ateliers J.R. Jérôme in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And her work is in the collections of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, Yale University, and Rutgers University Caribbean Studies Department. And she is a recipient of a fellowship from the New York Foundation for the Arts. Rejin, if I'm not mistaken, was actually the very first artist that we shared for Rasin Lakay. I think so, one of the few first ones that we presented, and it was some moving images. She's going to tell us more about the process and about the inspiration behind it. But I remember personally, for me, it was a particularly heavy time, and I felt that her work really reflected what was happening for me and around me. So Eugene, I'm gonna let you tell us a bit about it, and you can all check it out. It's on our Instagram as well as the website, and you'll see the images. But it was very poignant work. So thank you again for what you produced for us all.
Thank you, Riva, and thank you, Haiti Cultural Exchange and Rejin. I want to reiterate what some of the other presenters said, that when HCX announced that you were initiating this program, Rasin Lakay, and granting, pretty much commissioning artists to do work to present on the digital platforms. It was at a time when a lot of other cultural work had disappeared because everyone was closing their doors, and a lot of us had no idea how we were going to make a living this year. So I know I really appreciated, and I'm sure a lot of artists appreciated, that HCX was able to kind of pivot so quickly and say, since we're not going to be able to hold events in person, we're going to switch over our budget and figure out how to support our artists to produce work to support the community. So that was very much appreciated. And I know a lot of other organizations kind of followed suit and figured things out eventually. But as I recall, you were the first to kind of make that pivot. So I really appreciated that. And I don't remember whether my project was the first or one of the early ones, but it was very early in the pandemic, when New York was the epicenter, and a lot of people were sick, or knew people who were sick, or losing loved ones, and just like kind of having to pivot work and figure out new ways to create and share. What, like, if that was the only adaptation we had to make, and not like, be sick ourselves, like it was such a privilege to like just be figuring out how to work and not be going through, some things that so many of our neighbors were going through. So I am going to share. Okay. Yes. So it was very early in the pandemic. I don't know how many people remember this, but I've kind of done a lot of work around dreams. So I was really interested early in the pandemic to find like people were sharing their COVID dreams, as you know, it was kind of a shared experience. People were like having these anxiety dreams, and you know, not only people were, you know, sharing via this hashtag COVID dreams, there were, you know, there were articles about this, what kind of dream, you know, anxiety causing COVID dreams people were having. I have a kind of a long-term, as one of my long-term projects, I've been very interested in dreams and dream books. I don't know how many people have used Chala, the dream number books. They're I don't actually play the lottery, so I feel like I'm kind of not an authentic person to kind of lecture about what a Chala is, but I'm really interested in the idea of the Chala, because it's kind of like in the Middle Ages, people were like fascinated with this idea of alchemy, and like, you know, we can make straw into gold and like kind of make something out of nothing. And like now we have the Chala because we, you know, even if you don't have, you know, an inheritance or a lot of resources, you can, you know, we're still trying to make something out of nothing, right? With the Chala, you can, it's kind of an elaborate system to get numbers from your dream, which is like not something substantial, right? It's not a physical thing, but you can use your dream to try to make your fortune. So I'm really interested in this idea, and like as artists, we're kind of making something out of nothing, right? And like with the Chala, this is what people do. You're trying to make something out of nothing. So I was following these COVID dreams early in the pandemic. And of course I was having them as well. So when the Rasin Lakay opportunity arose, I knew that I wanted to do something with dream numbers and Chala, and I'm also a book artist, so I've made a lot of kind of book versions of Chala ideas and drawings related to the project. So for this, I knew I wanted to make a Chala specific to COVID, because the books kind of aren't updated regularly. So there aren't even a lot of 20th century terms in there. And so a lot of the images we were dreaming about during COVID certainly weren't in there. So I kind of crowdsourced through my friends and made a list of what people were dreaming about. And of course, masks was a very big one. And sirens, and, you know, dreaming of when the vaccine would be here. So I made this list of words, and I made an entire new Chala. So, you know, this is a photocopy from one of my old Chalas, and they kind of have these words like, this isn't the right page for it, but there's like ice box, right? Like old-timey words, because they're not really updated. They're just kind of reprinted. So I had to, you know, I found some words, but I had to kind of devise a system to come up with numbers for the new words. So I wanted to present this project via Instagram, because I know a lot of people are looking at art on Instagram. I am mainly, I'm a very analog artist. I draw, you know, on paper, I make paper, I work with my hands. But I had experimented with digital collage and digital work before, but I think like Wynnie had said, we all had to adapt quickly and learn new things to be able to present during this. So I didn't want to just draw and snap a photo and put it on. If I was going to present work on Instagram, I wanted there to be a reason why it's on Instagram. So I made these as digital works, partly by collaging a lot of things I had made by hand, and partly kind of native within the photo software platform. But I also had always wanted to see my drawings move. So without having done any animation before and without really having access to people who I could ask a lot of questions of or go take a class or something, I kind of taught myself, also like Wynnie said, I taught myself some very simple animation techniques. And I made this series of, I think there were 6 altogether, pages of this chala that are all digital animations that were presented kind of serially on HCX's Instagram platform. And as you can see, they're bilingual. I want to show one that actually moves. So they're, as you can see, they're really simple. They just move, they move a little bit. A lot of my drawings are very kind of subtle. So, you know, I kind of wanted to keep these within that spirit. They're pretty subtle. And let me also, I want to share one other one actually. That is here. I'm assuming a fairly bilingual audience, so I wasn't translating all the words, you know, and putting them both in English and Creole. I'm just assuming if you can, you know, if you're a Haitian American, you can certainly read both. If you're not, you can Google. All the words are on there. So I was really happy to be able to share that. And let me go back to this for a second, because finally, we also, HCX later on in the spring did do an in-person event at a community garden in Brooklyn. And for that, we did make a paper version of the dream book that we were able to distribute to people who visited the garden. So yeah, I later also made another version of this. So there's quite a few versions of these dream books floating around now. And you can see all of the pages of the dream book on my website and on Instagram. So stop by. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Eugene. Wow, I love the variety that we have amongst all the artists. I'm going to open up the floor for questions and discussion. I know we're running a little bit behind since we're supposed to wrap at 7:30, but I want to give everyone an opportunity if they have questions. I know some of you have been writing in the chat box, but I'm gonna give you the ability to unmute yourself if you'd like to join in and ask a question to either the artists or anyone who just spoke or about any of the HCX Rasin Lakay works. Some of the comments that have been said on our Facebook Live, since this is also on Facebook. One person, Cassandra Dewasier, said, "By the way, Stephen, you are an incredible comedian. I love MC Baby." One person, Donna Thompson, says, "Hi, Rejin. Hi, Wynnie." Cassandra Dewasier said, "This is great. So keep up the great work." Alain Joinville said, "Awesome work." So, you know, lots of encouragement and applause. So we appreciate that so much. Thank you all for following on the various platforms. Michael Amici says he loves and misses Haiti, and I feel that probably, you know, resonates with all of us. So if anyone has any questions that they want to direct to the artists here, please feel free to unmute yourselves or in the chat box, or if you want to type it on Facebook. Rejin, our director is holding down the fort on that end. So if you have anything that you want to address, oh, here we go. I just got one from Nubian Nene says, just want to say thank you to HCX and to all of you artists. I'm off to Haiti on Thursday, and this gives me an extra push and inspiration. Merci, merci, merci en pile. Love our community and so glad to be connected to this creative community. Thank you, Nubian Nene. Safe travels. I'm sure we all wish we could be there right now, but with all that is happening in the world, you know, just be extra careful. And I hope that you have a wonderful trip. It's always inspiring to be, you know, on the land, right, within the motherland. So that's beautiful. Have a wonderful, yes, motherland, wonderful trip. If any of the artists have questions for the other artists, that's also an option. Voyons petit soleil pour nous, right? Send us some sun. If while we're waiting for anyone who wants to pose a question or bring anything up for discussion, I would like to highlight some of the events that we have coming up for Haiti Cultural Exchange, especially since we're now transitioning back into in-person programming, of course, still with social distancing and wearing our masks and still taking all the precautions. This Sunday, the 25th, we have an event at Brooklyn Botanic Garden with Okai, who was one of our Rasin Lakay artists, and Mia Luxama, and they'll be performing traditional Haitian tunes at the Cherry Esplanade. It may be raining, but we're still gonna be there, rain or shine, you know, supporting our in-person programming, because we're all so happy to be back in community again during this time after, you know, not having had that opportunity for so long. The following event is on the 8th of May. It's also going to be at Brooklyn Botanic Garden. It's like myself and Movelino and Marcus Schwartz will be performing, you know, also traditional Haitian tunes, same Cherry Esplanade. And it's part of our Femme d'Haïti series. So we're highlighting, you know, Haitian women artists. And for the month of May, since we're coming into Haitian Heritage Month, we are celebrating our flag in May. This year we're celebrating it on the 15th of May, and it'll be at Brooklyn Commons. For those of you who are familiar with the space, there's a beautiful open rooftop where we'll be sort of, you know, safely enjoying Mosaic, who's going to be our musical performance for the evening, some Haitian bites, some, you know, light refreshments. We're going to be honoring also the organizations that have been on the front lines during this pandemic. So we just want to give back and thank the organizations that have been continuing to you know, fight the good fight during this time. So sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already done so to stay up to date with the events that we have coming up. Follow our Instagram, Haiti Cultural X. You know, share the work. That's the way that you can give back to our artists and our communities, by, you know, spreading the word. And I think I see another comment here. This one is from Sika Valme. It says, HCX, merci pour parler. Map suiv nou kole kole. Thanks to all the artists who presented work. Your work is very rich and thought out. I'm a queer Haitian musician and illustrator based out of MTL, Montreal, and have to leave now, but hope to connect. Take care and sending best. Merci, Sika. It was wonderful to have you with us, joining in on our Zoom call today. I think we're going to wrap up. It feels that maybe we don't have too many questions, or maybe we'll follow up with Q&A, you know, via, since the live will be living on Facebook, maybe we could continue the dialogue there. But thank you all for creating the time to be here tonight. And I hope that you're all taking care of yourselves and you know, being gentle with yourselves during this time. Thank you, Rejin, for putting this together. And I believe that's all for our Unparlé. We look forward to seeing you all hopefully in person at some future events. So merci en pile. Et puis m'am di nou tout bonne nuit. Have a wonderful evening and yay.
Merci un pile, merci Riva.
Yeah,
Thank you.
merci tout le monde.
Merci tout le monde.
Merci, merci en pile.
Thank you.
Bye.